you can see our crowds are phenomenal. But I think we know that, you know, if you have a team in Cork that's competing and successful, we will attract decent crowds. We always have done that. It's when you slip off the radar that the fall off becomes significant. And I suppose if you really realistically look at it, we probably have a hardcore of 3,000 that varies up to close to 5,500, 6,000 for the big matches. And but so I suppose the crucial thing for us is we know that if we can stay in there, you know, then for the rest of the season, obviously we've only 2 home games, the crowds are going to be very, very big, but obviously next year you stay in there again, it means that your crowds are going to be that. So like that's all I suppose good for the club. I suppose when you look in the overall context, I think in the wider, you know, throughout the city and county, we have huge support. Now, support coming through the gate is one thing, but we still have lots of people who have huge interest in the club. You know what I mean? Even people abroad, but even in the county areas, a lot of people that may not go to Turner's Cross regularly, but they have a lot of interest in the club, and it's trying to see can you attract those more and more young people and new people to come to the games. But I suppose that's the beauty about Cork. You're doing well, crowds are good. That's why why the local lads love playing for us. That's why the lads that come in from the outside love playing with us, because there's a tremendous atmosphere there. And I suppose when you look at overall, is that, you know, sometimes people say to me, well, you know what I mean, you might have had 4,000 a game, but at a big other sporting event they might be bigger. They're only once off, maybe 2 or 3 times in the year. Whereas, like you look at, we are every second week, and we've had a consistent. So, like you're saying there, Billy, like having 55,000 people, you know, which is fantastic, coming every second week, which means they've maintained their strong support, and it shows that you know, we have a very strong following. And look at long way we stay successful, because at least we'll keep those crowds coming.
You have to have something tangible, don't you, during the season? You have to be in the top 3 or 4 to keep them, to maintain that kind of
you do
crowd.
You do. You have to be.
You said a couple of,
well, you have to be challenging. I suppose the difference is, if we look in the last 2 seasons, granted the first year 2 years ago after Tommy came up, you know, the step up from the first division is big, and it was really a bedding in process. The problem is last year when he left, you know, you would half the season or maybe 10 games left that really there was nothing to play for, you know, and like, as we know, our supporters won't come out to a game where there's nothing to play for. You know, they want to have something to play for. So I suppose if you look at it this season, every match we've played, there's been something to play for, and we're still there where there's something to play for, and that's really why. And I suppose, look, to be fair to it's just a human thing, I suppose, in Cork, and because we have so many people that follow so many sports, they'll go to the games where that means something. And you know, if there's a game that doesn't mean anything, you know, whether it's soccer, rugby, they just won't go.
Talking of games that mean something, we're ticking them off week by week. We're now down to 4 cup finals left. You're certainly putting it up to Dundalk and confounding a lot of people, John.
Well, I suppose, look, at the way I look at it is that we have 1 cup final, because Friday is crucial for us, because we cannot afford to take our feet off the ground or look anywhere else, because any points that we drop now, it's really going to hand it to Dundalk. So Friday night is another huge game for us. As I said, for most of the season, Dundalk's name looks as if it's on the cup. Everyone has given them the league. Every commentator in the national televisions have handed it to them. They're unbeatable. They're home and dry. And we've probably been a pain in the backside for everyone, because we're still there. We've hung in there, and even though we've been written off all season, we're still there. We're the only team that can give them a run for it. And if we can keep our feet in the ground and go out Friday night and give another good performance and hopefully get the result, it means we keep the pressure on them. And it's a fantastic situation for the lads themselves, fantastic for the club, that maybe we might get to the situation where we may get to that game at the end of the season where we're going up there with the possibility of the league at stake, which would be fantastic for the club, fantastic for the lads, and it would surprise a lot of people, because no one has given us one iota of a chance. But it just shows the character and the credit, and they I suppose, really what the players this year have done. You know, and if you look at it, that if we go back to, say, start of the season up to the halfway point, we probably rotated 13 to 14 players. And you look at early in the season, we played our second string against in the Munster Senior Cup, and it was quite obvious that we didn't have strength in depth. But since the break, we've tried to strengthen up in areas, and we, like you look at last weekend, we had 21 players looking to be selected for the match against Sligo, which shows you where we've come from. And like you, the likes of Danny Morrissey, Killian Morrison, and Gavin Kavanagh, who didn't even make the bench, who were all good players and decent guys, and so it shows you where we've come. But look, it's a great situation to be in, and as the lads know and the players, you know, it's every week to go out, and you know, they've given everything, and that's what I said about the supporters. I think the supporters can see that the lads, and even at half time last Friday night, 1-0 down, didn't play well, we were on the back foot. And even at half time, going in at half time, the supporters were clapping the team and saying, "Come on, lads, there's 45 minutes and we can turn this around." In maybe other places, they might have been booing them off or whatever, but that didn't happen down here because there's a fierce bond between the players and the supporters. So, look, it's a great situation to be in. And, you know, I keep saying, you know, to the lads, let's concentrate on Friday night. You know, it's a very, very difficult game. And let's see, can we get the 3 points and just keep ourselves in there.
And they both played their part in the second half the other night in getting the result again. So like it's kind of momentum that just keeps rolling on, isn't it? It
is, and I look at if you're a player, as I keep saying, like if you look at it from this what we have at the moment, we have guys that were part of the 205 team. We have guys that were there in 207 when the cup was won, but the majority of guys have never been there when we've won any of the major trophies. And you've had lads like the Garrod Morrisseys, the Johnny Dunleavys, Rob Lehans, Ross Gaynor, who's come into the club. You've Darren Denny, I suppose Markey, Josh, all those guys, Gary Buckley, Dave O'Leary, Michael Sweeney. So they've all come in, and they've never seen, or they've never witnessed playing in front of huge crowds. And even though some of them have been with the club for 2 or 3, 4 seasons, so this season has been a real eye opener, and it's been and like they've really embraced it, and they've stepped up their performance because the pressure's been on them, and they've delivered, and you have to admire that.
Friday night, Drogheda and our old friend Damien.
Yeah, well, look at I suppose look at there's Damien would be a very popular person down in Cork, because obviously when he moved back from Gillingham, we were the first club he came to, and he spent a season and a half with us at the time. And obviously then he did the road, and he went to Shells and Rovers and did a bit of a scene up in Dublin for a while, and you know, and eventually 13 years later ended back in Cork, and was fortunate enough to be manager of that team. That was that fantastic team that we had in 205 that won the league. And so like Damien would be a popular figure. So look at it's for me it's a difficult one. I had him as a manager. I was in the stands when we won the league and we won the cup in 205, 207 as a supporter. But at the same time, I know Damien, and while he'll say all the nice things about Cork, there's no doubt in my mind he wants to make sure that Friday night he comes down and he spoils the party, because that's where he's at the moment. And we have to be on our guard, because obviously he'd have close connections. There's still a lot of the lads who are playing with us who were part of the team in 205 and 207. And Damien is a very good guy and a very good man, and but he's well able to talk it up, and we have just to make sure that we don't get carried or fooled by what he's saying, because at the end of the day we have to get the 3 points, and that's what's the most important thing to us.
He did say after the break game though that the performance they put in the other night wouldn't be good enough to get anything out of Cork. And was that the start of it?
And I suppose if I was to say that our 45 minutes in the first half against Sligo, that performance won't get us the 3 points against Drogheda. So I would say so. But look at it, it's good. He's coming down. I'm sure probably a lot of the crowd will give him a warm reception. But at the same time, I'm not interested in what Damien says or does. To be honest, all I want is to make sure that we're focused for Friday night. We have a big opportunity to keep the pressure on, and we need to do that. And we need to play well. Drogheda are a very compact, tight side, working really hard. 6 or 7 very good players, very good keeper. Centre backs, McAnally, middle of the park, Houlihan, Brennan, Fabio up front or Gary O'Neill, Maher, a lot of good players and underrated. So, and I think you'll see a lot of those players will probably move on to probably bigger name clubs in the close season. So, and we, if you go back and look at our record against them, start of the season, we were 0-all at half time in Turner's Cross, and they missed a penalty in the first half. Eventually, we beat them 3-1. If you go to the game away in United Park, when Darius was after moving in and taking over as the caretaker manager at the time, Gary Buckley scored with 8 minutes to go in a very, very tight match. So, I've no doubt that Drogheda would like nothing better than to come down and spoil the party for us here. So, it means that we need a huge effort.
Injuries?
Yeah, Colin Healy is suspended, isn't he?
Colin is suspended, which is disappointing for Colin. Garrod is, on the treatment table at the moment. So is John O'Flynn. Josh O'Shea has been sick all week. So I suppose there are 3 concerns that we'll assess on Thursday morning. So I suppose Colin's the one definite is out. The other lads we just have to wait and see. That's
an opportunity for Dave O'Leary, though, because he's done well. You brought him in to kind of shore things up in the past 2 games.
Well, what it does,
he's done well, I thought.
Yeah, look, they've all done well, but it's an opportunity that it opens it up that there could be any one of 4 players, 5 players brought in, because there's options that we have in that position. You know what I mean? Dave is certainly one of the front runners. You could bring in Rob Lehan. You could bring back in John O'Flynn in a different position and go 4-4-2. You could bring in John Kavanagh. So it gives us a lot of options, and that's something that we'll decide on over the next day or 2. It's probably unfortunate Colin is missing, but as I said, the funny thing this season is that the players that have come in when we've had a few injuries or some suspensions have done fantastic, and as you saw in Limerick 2 weeks ago. So I've no doubt whoever steps in wouldn't let the team down. You must be thrilled with the performances of Michael McSweeney as well. He came kind of late to the party, but he's really stepped up when he's been asked. Yeah, well, Michael's a different type of player. He's probably a very strong man marker, and if you look at his performances this year, he marked Christy Fagan for his debut, and we won 1-0. He marked Rory Gaffney last week, another top striker, and we won 1-0. And he's come on to the match. He's coming late against Derry. He's coming late against Sligo at the weekend. So he's come on in 4 or 5 matches, and he's done well. But I suppose at the same time, I know Michael a long time. He's played, as I said before, I sent him to the city before, and at the time he wasn't wanted, and he ended up at Murphy for 2 years. But then again, Michael is 25. He's a strong man. He's a very fit, athletic type of player, and again, he's been another huge addition to our squad because he's given us strength and depth, and he's given us opportunities to bring him into play him across the back 4, and that's why he's done so well.
Next game's Drogheda. That's the one we look at. Like, obviously they've a good run of form. They had a bad result against Athlone, like obviously with drawn 1-1, but they're a very solid team. They destroyed Sligo a couple of weeks ago. They're very good on the travel, so it's going to be a tough game, and if we get through there, then we've obviously UCD away next week, and then we just concentrate on that. But nobody's looking at titles yet. Like, we just concentrate on the next game. That's what John's driving into us, so it's good.
The games are tough though, Ross, aren't they?
We're not making it easy for ourselves, but if you look at the teams we've probably played all the teams that are on form at the moment, like, and they've all been narrow victories. Like, so if you look at Pats, Sligo, Limerick, Shams, they are top 5-6 teams, like, do you know what I mean? So there's been no easy games yet, and the games that we should have won comfortably, like Athlone away, we drew, so, and the Bray game at home, so it's kind of, we do well in the big games, and Friday night's going to be another big one on telly as well, so looking forward to it.
And Damien coming back adds a kind of another dimension to it. There's a bit of
spice to it,
obviously.
A bit of spice. Obviously, he's loved down here. Obviously, won the league with them here, so he'll. I'm sure he'll get a good reception, and hopefully, we can get the result and send them back on the bus.
Last Friday night, big game for you, having come from Sligo. I'd say you really enjoyed it because it was a cracker in the second half.
The game couldn't come quick enough for me, even from the straight away from the Limerick, straight after the Limerick game. I was thinking about it, obviously. A lot of negative comments came out of the club when I left, and obviously it was great to show them what I'm capable of doing, and just to keep a clean sheet. That's what we wanted to do. If we kept a clean sheet, we knew we'd score, and answered a few critics, which was always good as well. So I was chuffed at the end result when they'll save the penalty, especially, like, so it was I'd say it was a long old drive for them going back up to Sligo, and yeah, it was a very nice 3 points for me personally.
You had a very telling save yourself a block just before half time.
I wish I could tell you I meant it, but it just hit me like so. I covered the goal, and
RT were crediting the goalkeeper in the post or something, but it actually hit you.
No, it was just put my body in front of the goal, and hopefully he'll hit me, and he did, to be fair. So yeah, it was just pure luck, but obviously Nulls saved the penalty, which more or less gave us the 3 points, and it was fantastic for him to get it. Like he's been outstanding for us since I've come in anyway. So we've kind of a settled back four with Mike and Cav coming in there the odd time as well. Like, so that's very important in a winning team, and I think we've won more than we've lost or drawn since I've come in, and it's been such a pleasure to be a part of the back 4 and 5, obviously. So yeah, it's been good.
Would you like to be here next year?
I'd love to be here next year, obviously. Like, I'd love
your contract in there.
Yeah, that's it. I'd love to be here next year. It's such a good club, great manager, and all that. Like, so we'll obviously concentrate on the next few games, and we'll go from there, because there's a long off season, and then hopefully we can sort something out.
I presume that the manager's going to strengthen the team as well, presumably.
Oh well, you have to, especially with European football, because you're going to have 2 games a week, hopefully for a couple of months, like, and
you're going to see the potential of the club yourself. I mean,
definitely.
That's what I'm saying, you'd like to stay next year.
Definitely, I'd love to stay here next year. Like, obviously with Sligo, the last couple of years we were in Europe, and Dundalk the time before. Like, you could see that from my first year at Sligo, we had to build more players. Like, people were missing, people were coming in, especially with European football. If you want to win cups, obviously everybody wants to win cup, but you can win 4 cups next year, and you're going to need a bit of a bigger squad. But as John said before, like, we had 3 lads who didn't make the bench, and they've been buzzing in training. Like, you've got young Darren Murphy, Killian, and others that aren't making the bench. So there's pressure on people to perform, and you need that. You need that in teams. Like, there has to be a bit of pressure to get the best out of players, keep people on their toes as well. So yeah, it's exciting times in Cork. It's obviously a massive city, big club, and it's right that they're going to be in Europe. Hopefully we can get there and do the city proud.
Having come in so late into the thing, like, other players on other teams, they actually do like coming to Turner's Cross because of the atmosphere.
I've always loved coming here. It's like the pitch has always been probably the best in the league. The fans have been great. Like, the crowds are always very good down here, and it's such a nice stadium as well. But even coming down here, the training facilities we have, the squad we have, it's just a pleasure to be around some of the guys. Like, it's such a tight unit, and obviously it's probably the first club in Ireland anyway that has a proper training ground. We turn up to the training ground, we get our food after training, we do gym and all that. So it's probably the closest club to English clubs that I've been involved with anyway. So it's great to be around.
Right.